现在呢，在我身边的这3位呢，就是刚才提到的大纽约市华人教育基金会的奖学金的3位得主。所以 ，so please take photo of all 3 of them. Just crop me out. That's fine. I'm sticked to the corner. 好，那首先，3位是不是可以稍微给大家自我介绍一下？因为其实我们也没有见过3位，我只知道3位来自于 3 prestigious schools. One is Stanford. The other one's Princeton and also University of Pennsylvania. Would you please stand up and say a few words about yourself? Let everybody know you. Shall we?
Hello, my name is Cindy. I am an incoming senior, and my major is Management Science and Engineering, and I'm studying a minor in physics, and I'm at Stanford University.
Great. Shall we give her a big round of applause?
Hello, my name is Serena. I'm a sophomore at Princeton University, and right now I'm studying political science, possibly psychology as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl Chen. I was recently this 2017 Scholars for Dollars recipient. I attend the Wharton School of Business at University of Pennsylvania. I just started a month ago, and I'm hoping to major in social impact and responsibility, as well as finance.
Thank you. But please be seated. I feel so short. Look at all of you guys. Alrighty. So, Cindy, shall we start from you? Sure. I have this question, and I think that's a very important question because all the parents and students here would want to know what are the things to look at when we applying for schools.
So when you're looking at schools, the first thing I would prioritize is to look at schools based on their academics. You really want to make sure you find a school where you feel comfortable in a comfortable learning environment for the next 4 years. So you can start by looking at schools that offer interesting programs or majors. So if you have a major in mind or several majors you're thinking of, that's great. So you can start looking at schools that offer, that program of study or major. And then once that is done, you can then ask yourself other things about the academic atmosphere. So things like, do you prefer a large research university, or do you like a small liberal arts college setting? Do you mind large lecture style classes, or would you want more face time with instructors and smaller class sizes with seminars? These are all good questions to ask yourself and familiarize yourself with when you're looking at schools.
Great, thank you for suggestions. And I know the girl who's sitting next to you, you guys are sisters, right?
Yes.
To ask for the sisters' advice. Do you discuss when you apply for school? Do you ask for each other's suggestions?
Yeah, we definitely discussed it together a little bit, but I think the main difference is we had very different ideas of what we wanted to do and what we wanted to study. And so I think that really affected kind of where we ultimately decided where to go to school. I think to add on, actually, it's really important not to forget, you have to look at kind of like a lot of other factors as well, because they kind of impact your experience more than you may think. So if you are looking for a school, maybe like in a city setting, you might want to apply to kind of those places. It's really important to think about in a city setting, you can have more opportunities for internships. It's easier access to a lot of the rising centers for a lot of young people and stuff like that. Or if you want to experience kind of a more suburban setting, you can probably have a better family campus style. Those are all very important as well, so it's really important to not forget about that also when you're applying to college.
So when you choose Princeton, you know that you don't get a lot of bars, right? You want to focus on studying.
Well, Princeton is actually very close-knit, and I think that's something that drew me to the school. We actually all came from the same high school.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was a very small school, and it made me feel very comfortable just getting to really know my peers, and I think that makes me comfortable. It's a really good learning environment for me.
Great, thank you. And you want to add on something?
Oh, yes. Just to add on to Serena's points here, you don't have to do this, but it's definitely great if you can visit some of the colleges that you're thinking of going and really take the time to maybe talk to some of the current students there. They'll be more than happy to share with you what they do on a daily basis, what they like about the school, and what the school culture is like. That's also really important at Stanford. I like to say that the culture is very laid back. So I definitely do kind of appreciate that, that big change, from the very busy city life of New York City, and I really did like the welcome change.
I see you got a beautiful tan over there on the West Coast. And yes, Cheryl, actually I have a different question for you because you're as a freshman. You're really, you can still record essays, right?
Yeah.
But for those seniors, probably not, but for you can record your essays. So my question for you is, what do you look for in the admission essays?
For sure. So I was in your guys' positions last year for high school seniors, and I know I was super stressed out as well, the Common App, and then I had to do the school-specific essay. And I actually applied early decision to Wharton because I knew it was my top choice. So I actually only had to do 2 essays, which is kind of great. And I guess, so regarding Common App essays, I know the prompt usually stays the same every year. I chose the prompt, it was, I think I have it actually. It was talk about some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful, they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. So that prompt is basically saying, tell us something interesting about yourself. And it's actually one of the most easy prompts, I believe. And how I approached this was I really wanted to talk about my personality and what drove me to do the extracurriculars I was involved in. And I didn't really want to talk about my academics or specific extracurriculars. I was president of this club or I founded this organization, because colleges can already see that in your extracurricular list and your resume. So that's kind of unnecessary to write about. I mainly want to focus on my disposition and how I acted. So specifically for me, I wrote about how my empathetic personality and behavior drove me to want to pursue business. And then I expanded on that by giving concrete examples. For example, I volunteered at a soup kitchen and how my personality, influenced that and how I made a change there. And, I told you guys how I wanted to pursue business, and so I talked a lot about how being empathetic and being vulnerable in business is an asset rather than a weakness. So yeah, and I talked to a few of my friends as well regarding their essays, and a lot of them wrote about small things that you wouldn't find in a resume or a letter of recommendation. So I know my friend wrote about this, how unique her hair was, and she talked about her culture, and stuff like that. So you can talk about culture, that's a big one. A lot of people talked about smaller instances. So some people were tutoring or a part-time job, they mentioned that. So really kind of find yourself within the essays. It sounds cliche, but that's what I did, and I know I went through a lot of drafts. I believe I went through 7 different topics, and another tip would be to start early. I know everyone says that. I actually wrote my Common App essay 2 weeks before the deadline. That's when I finally got my topic, so it definitely takes a lot. And I think it came out already, right? August 1st, yeah. So just continue building on your topics and stuff like that. And I would ask a few, a small group of people to help you edit the essays, and a group of people that you trust. I wouldn't ask too many people because you'll get, a variety of different opinions. So I asked 5 people, including an English teacher I really trusted, and she gave some great advice. So those are a few tips.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. And you mentioned recommendation letters, and you mentioned your English teacher. So yes, who would you suggest to go ask for the recommendation letter?
Yeah, so I know a lot of you guys are seniors already, but continue to foster those relationships that you've already built upon. And if you guys are freshmen, sophomore, and juniors, start finding teachers that you really trust and are genuinely interested in their classes. Even if a teacher teaches a subject that you don't want to major in, you can still have a close relationship with them and show that you really care about their class. For example, I'm going into business, but I got really close to my AP chemistry teacher, and I didn't do that well in class, but I asked for tutoring, I came to help, and so he really saw that, and that built a genuine relationship. And I also asked my assistant principal for a letter of recommendation because I had a position in National Honor Society, and he ran that, and so I would go to his office every day to help out, and that built a strong relationship, and he knew a lot about me and a lot about my personality, that he was able to write a 4-page recommendation letter, which is very, it helped a lot, definitely. So if you find 2 or 3 close teachers or faculty members that you could get to know really well on not just an academic basis, but on a personal basis, that would really show through the recommendation letters.
Yes, great. I'm sure Cindy and Serena wants to ask on the same question, right?
Oh,
Who
yeah.
would you go for the recommendation letters?
So actually, continuing on what she said, basically the important thing about recommendation letters are that the teachers can provide some insight that kind of like your application doesn't really show. So it's more personal. They can really highlight some of your strengths, and they can provide some of these concrete examples. So it's very important to find people that you really connect with, and it's really important to kind of communicate with them, try to develop this great relationship so they can really showcase that in the letter. Also, if you do any extracurriculars, I think it's a good idea to maybe contact someone who's like a coach if you're on a team, or if you're playing a musical instrument, maybe someone who's associated with teaching you for a very long time. Someone who has that kind of relationship with you can really help further develop what your application looks like and kind of create this better picture, this more complete picture of who you are. Because ultimately, I mean, they'll have a list of everything you've done, but they really want to see the kind of person you are, to see if you can fit in their school, the kind of person they see kind of going to do great things in the future, and stuff like that.
Great, thank you. And how about you, Cindy?
Yes, and those are all very great points raised by Cheryl and Serena. The one thing I would just want to add on is the sense of timing. Once you've got your recommenders to agree to writing your letter, make sure you are really on top of all the communication. Like, especially if it's email, be responsive. When they agree to write your letter, they might ask you one of 2 things. One, they'll definitely ask for your resume, so definitely have that prepared. Or in other cases, it's not too common, but they will have a template for you to fill out. So if that's the case, it's actually in your best interest to do that as soon as possible, and make sure all communication is prompt.
Great, thank you. And I would want to have a special shout out to all the teachers, because today is actually the Teachers' Day, and thank you so much for accommodating all these great young ladies over here and write recommendation letters for them. Well, this one huge question I want to ask you is because you're all the recipients for the Chinese Scholars for Scholars, so how to actually maximize the scholarship to reduce the burden of college? That's all for all 3 of you guys.
Sure. So outside awards help a lot. You have to, for each school, what I suggest doing is do a little bit more research into some of the scholarship policies. When I chose Stanford, I found out that Stanford will have a policy where the scholarship is not merit-based, but it's more need-based. So that means filing your FAFSA and CSS profile on time, so you can make the most out of your aid. So once that happens, you will have the financial award letter mailed to you, and you can access that. And then what it will say on there, it will have your estimated parents' contribution, and then it'll have another item that will say the amount that you've received from Stanford or another school. And then at the bottom, you'll see the section where it's called outside awards. So I can only speak from the Stanford side of things, but when you see that, those are where all your outside scholarships, such as the Dollars for Scholars, come in. And each year you have to just tell them and report the amount that you receive so that Stanford can then apply that. And these are such great awards, and yeah, it's been helping out so much.
And how about you, Serena?
Yeah, so I think this award specifically has really helped me a lot. As like a Chinese American student, it's really, really great knowing there's support specifically for us to go to college and get an education and keep, I guess, pursuing like the American dream here. Something that our parents, I guess, your first generation, really, they just built this great life for the students, and they really want them to kind of fulfill it. And having the scholarship really helps me achieve that, and it lets me, I guess, like, know that there are things possible for me to do, and I know I have the support behind me. And I just hope that in order to maximize it, I guess I want to help out all these students. I was lucky I had an older sister. She helped me a lot with college applications, but I just really hope that one day I can also help a lot of the incoming students, such as you guys out here. It really helps to know that there's someone who can give you advice and who's like a friendly face and can just help you out through this process, because it can be a little scary and it's something that's pretty important. So I'm just really happy that I have the chance to do that right now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, really great points, and I totally agree with Serena. This is such an honor receiving it this year. In terms of like logistically getting the scholarships and winning the scholarships, I actually received almost $200,000 in scholarships, and it took a lot of planning and time finding the scholarships. So I guess some advice I would give to people looking for scholarships, and also tips for applying. Definitely stay organized, because a lot of the scholarships, they're due the same time as college applications are due. So that's a lot of stress if you think about it, writing all those essays and supplements, as well as applying for these scholarships to win money for college. So I would definitely stay organized. I created an Excel sheet where I put like the name of the scholarship, the link I found it on, the amount, and then I would put the date it was due. And I had it all organized so that I would know when to apply for each scholarship. And definitely in terms of like resources to look for scholarships, I heard about Chinese Dollars for Scholars, I think just through an online web search. And that's how I found most of my scholarships, actually, including some of the big ones, including like Coca-Cola scholarship, or there's like Gates Millennium, I know that's a big one. You can find those online, and as well as the application online. And then in terms of local scholarships, which are more easy to find, I would definitely reach out to your guidance counselors. I know that's what we all did. We attended the same school, Staten Island Tech. And so reaching out, I think having a good relationship with the guidance counselor also pays off, because sometimes they'll nominate you for awards and scholarships, which is really great. And also reach out to any community organizations you're part of. So I know I was part of Key Club, so I reached out to Kiwanis, and they had lots of scholarships, and they were quite easy to get. Also, if you're part of a church group, look at churches, local organizations in your neighborhood, and just like reach out to all your outlets, because they'll definitely want to help you find those resources. So if you can stay on task, keep organized, and just keep a lookout for these opportunities, it will really pay off.
Great, thank you. And all of you guys mentioned extracurricular like activities and the events that you should participate in. And I know that actually plays a very important role in the admission. Like, people will want to know what kind of people you are, except for learning, for studying in the school. So what kind of extracurricular events you would suggest all the students out here to go, or at least what's the direction to find those events?
All right, so I think one big thing about extracurriculars is that, in my opinion, I think quantity is not as important as dedication. And so if you really find something that you love, you should really pursue that to the fullest extent that you can. I mean, I think a lot of colleges get applicants where they do like a whole list of many different things, but there's not really one that sticks out, or that one that looks like they spent and put a lot of their time into, and where it's like really their core focus. They really want to see that in an applicant, like the dedication or like the passion. And one tip for finding that is, I guess, just look at something you really like, and it could be anything. Like, anything from maybe like student government, or even just like baking or something like that. Like, just really pursue it as much as you can, and they'll really be impressed by that. And it doesn't have to be something very, very big. It just has to be something important to yourself. And I think that's just something you guys have to remember about extracurriculars.
So what's yours? What did you do?
So I'm a rhythmic gymnast. I've been competing since I was 6 years old. When I was 11, I made the national team for juniors, and then I've been on the national team ever since. So I've been going to world championships and world cups, and I think that's just something I really think is important to me. And sometimes I didn't have a lot of time to do like school clubs, or maybe I wish I could have volunteered more, but it was something that I spent a lot of time doing. I was able to kind of go to the farthest extent I could, and I'm actually still doing it right now in college, which is something really exciting for me.
Don't play with those fire sticks over there, okay? That's not. All right, so what about you?
For sure, those are really great points. And something I'd like to mention is, I remember when I was doing my research last year, a lot of websites would say that you need applicants need to be well-rounded. That's actually not the case. You want to have that big spike, and Serena just mentioned she had that spike of going to the farthest extent with gymnastics, which is amazing. So you want to have something that's really unique. Like, you know, some colleges are looking for this cellist from Montana. You know, they want really specific spikes, not someone who does everything, is involved in student government, volunteering, athletic teams, which is great. But if you have something that really stands out, I think that'll really help your application further.
Same question, what's yours?
So for me, I mentioned that I'm going into business, and I really am passionate about creating an impact in my community. So I did a lot of like business ventures, I would say. So one of them was actually creating a nonprofit when I was a sophomore in high school. And another passion of mine is gender equality. So I mixed those two, and my nonprofit focused on accelerating and empowering young women going into business. So I created a lot of large-scale events. I hosted events in New York City, Times Square, and I worked with a lot of different partnerships like Disney and Costco. And we brought in some awesome female speakers to come speak about their experiences. It was really great because I actually got to learn a lot myself, and it was making an impact, and it was something I was really passionate about. And then I did a few other like small businesses on the side as well.
Nice, I thought it was Scout cookies, but well, that's obviously more than that. Yeah, I know you did a wonderful job because I heard about this online, so congratulations.
Thank you.
And what about you, Cindy?
All right, yeah, so in terms of my extracurricular activity, same story as my younger sister. We also did piano for many years. So kind of the trajectory we took with that is, you know, we both started off with piano at a very young age, and then what we did was we tended to focus more, you know, especially as middle school and high school approached, we tended to focus a little bit more on the gymnastics. So it's definitely so exciting to get to travel, get to compete in all these various different places. And if you're absolutely passionate about you know, what you're doing, it's going to really show in your application. Think about these extracurricular activities as sort of mirrors. The more passionate you are, the better your image, the reflection would be for the admissions officers. They'll have a clearer picture of what you are, and that will just help them determine what kind of fit you are for the campus and the college. So yeah, that's actually a really good thing to keep in mind, especially if you're thinking from that perspective.
Right, so if I cannot bend my legs over my ears, I still got a chance, right? That's one that really love something. Okay, great. And I'm sure with your background's amazing, and a lot of schools want to have you as a student, but how many schools that you apply for, and what do you think the optimal numbers for the student out there to apply for the schools?
So starting with my story, don't do what I did. I applied to around 20 to 25 schools. It is overkill. I will tell you that right now. So yes, learn from my mistake. It was a lot of stress. But I think the thing, what I kind of stuck to and think is kind of a good thing to stick to is dividing it into kind of 3 groups. So you have your reach schools, your target schools, and then your safeties. So I guess however you want to distribute that is kind of up to you. Some people like equal, some people want to do a little bit more targets for good reason than either of the safeties or reaches. So I'd say if I had to put a number on it, I would say around anywhere from 10 to 15 is a more reasonable number than what I did.
Did you take your class as well, or you a better choice?
Well, I learned from her mistake, and so I applied to 10 schools. I would say maybe the number could be a little bit less, maybe 6 to 8 would be a great number, because I mean, what are you going to do with 10 to 15 schools? And also, I think one important thing to look at is the early action, early decision. If you're really interested in a program, or there's one school that just sticks out to you for all these different reasons, if you've done your research, if you visited the school and it's just somewhere you really want to be, I think you should explore the option of early action and early decision. And early action and early decision are different. Early action is non-binding. Yes. So not all schools offer early action. So make sure you kind of remember that and look for that. Early action you can apply by November, and then you'll get your decision. They'll send you a response by December, which is in time to see if you want to apply to more schools, if you don't get in, or if you get deferred or something like that. Or even if you do get in, you can apply to more schools because it's non-binding. But the difference with that is if you go to early decision, you can only apply to this one school if you get in. So if you get in, it's kind of, right? Yeah, so if you get in, I think you have to go. So this is only, I think you should only do this if you're literally 100% sure that you want to go to the school. So those are 2 options I think you should look at, because you should take advantage of having this early date. There's less students who apply, and they'll have a better look at your application. I think it's something you should look at.
So, how about you, Cheryl?
Yeah, so I guess going down the line, we decreased schools because I applied to, I think, 4 schools because I did do early decision to Wharton. And so going along with what Serena said, which is really great points, and that's what influenced my decision to apply early decision to Wharton. I actually did a summer program, the summer going to senior year at University of Pennsylvania. I stayed there for a month and I created a business. And from that experience, talking to current Wharton students, and just that experience of being immersed in the school, knowing the campus, culture, all of that, it confirmed my decision to apply early decision. And also, a great thing about if you're 100% sure about doing ED is that the acceptance rate increases. So I know for Penn, they fill 50% of their freshman class just based on early decision applicants, which means that, so the regular acceptance rate will be about 8 to 9%, and then for early decision, I believe it was 20 to 25%. So that dramatically increased. But again, only apply early decision if you're 100% sure. I made sure to do my research. I talked to so many students. I talked to professors as well. I did a lot of research, and so that kind of influenced my decision. And then I also did the early action to my safety schools, and I got those all within December. And it was great that I got in early decision because I had 20 to 25 colleges on my list if I didn't get in, but I didn't have to do that because I got in. So.
So to conclude, if you have an elder sister, use her as a guinea pig. If you don't, go talk to someone else, right? Great. Actually, the time is up, but we really want you to say one more thing, just one simple sentence, and the concluding tips. All right, shall we do that?
Okay, I think my biggest tip is to, I know it was mentioned already, start early, because I spent my entire winter break writing all of my essays, and it really helps just planning everything out early, and it be significantly less stress. And I think looking back onto it, it is stressful, but I think it's something that will just pass very quickly, and it's just something, it's kind of like a fulfilling experience. I think you really learn a lot about yourself, so don't worry too much about it, just have fun with it, try to look into yourself, and I think that's going to help you guys a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, this is the perfect segue about learning yourself. Is actually my biggest tip is to be your true, genuine self. It's so cliche, but I can't tell you how many applicants, because they're overcome with this just fear of, oh my gosh, what are these colleges looking at me? Like, do I have to do this? Do I have to do this? No, I really highly suggest that all of you just be yourself and be very comfortable with sharing what is it that makes you, you, honestly.
Great, thank you. And one last sentence from you.
So for me, I don't have an older sibling, so I was the first person to apply to colleges. So I had to utilize my own resources and ask my friends, ask my teachers. So my biggest tip would be to utilize all your resources, whether that be online resources, different forums, your teachers, professors, other students who are older than you who have gone through the process. Just really anyone that you can reach out to, ask questions, learn more about different programs colleges offer. Ask about tips for writing essays, really reach out, and people will be willing to help you because they've gone through the process themselves. They know how stressful it is. They want to help you and reduce your burden. So for me, I know I emailed a bunch of professors. I talked to past students in my high school for advice on not only colleges but also interview tips, scholarships, which ones to apply to, when to apply to them. I even remember, I went to the extent of, adding people on LinkedIn from Wharton and, talking to them, and they were super nice, too. I cold called them, and they were like, yeah, I'm willing to help you out. They were super receptive to that. So if you're not afraid to ask questions and ask for help, ask around, that will definitely benefit you.
Great, thank you. 好，那我也希望我们的观众朋友们能够再次用掌声感谢我们3位奖学金得主，如此慷慨大方地跟我们分享他们的经验。Thank you so much. Thank you. That's very enlightening and thought-provoking. 谢谢，也谢谢我们3位回座好吗？谢谢。